In the distant reaches of the future, humanity stood unmatched. They were the architects of the stars, the conquerors of galaxies. Their fleets could reduce entire worlds to ash with a thought, and their technology bent the very fabric of reality to their will. No species dared challenge them, for they had ascended to heights no civilization had ever dreamed of. To many they seemed as gods, immortal and invincible. But power breeds complacency. From the depths of the void it came, a plague without form, without warning. It swept across the galaxy in silence, infecting every system, every world, every machine. Ships fell from the skies, great cities crumbled, and weapons of unimaginable power flickered and died. No one knew who unleashed it, or if it was a weapon at all. It did not speak, it did not explain, and it left no trace of its origin. It simply moved, relentless and unyielding, reducing everything it touched to lifeless silence. It did not kill the body, it killed technology. The galaxy plunged into darkness. Entire civilizations fell overnight, their intricate systems unraveling in mere moments. Once thriving worlds descended into chaos, their inhabitants left to grapple with a reality stripped of the tools they had long taken for granted. Trade routes dissolved, communications ceased, and the knowledge stored within vast data banks was rendered inaccessible, lost to the ages. And in the chaos that followed, humanity, the mightiest of all, vanished. Whether they perished or simply faded into legend, none could say. The stars that had once pulsed with their light now hung cold and empty, and the great monuments of their dominion became silent tombs scattered across the void. Over centuries, their name became a whisper in the ruins, a myth told by the few who dared remember, a faint echo of a time when the universe had been theirs to command. Yet even myths fade, and as the eons stretched on, the memory of humanity dimmed, slipping further into obscurity. The galaxy grew quieter, a shadow of its former self, as those who remained looked to the skies and wondered if the architects of the stars might ever return, or if they had truly been extinguished, their light swallowed forever by the void. But the plague was not finished. It evolved, lingering in the ether of space, unseen but ever present, watching and waiting. It was no longer a force of destruction alone, but something more insidious. As new civilizations rose from the ashes, tentatively reaching back toward the stars, they found themselves bound by a strange and immutable law of nature. Weapons of advanced technology could no longer thrive. Anything more sophisticated than steel and fire would corrode, fail, or simply cease to function without explanation. It was as if the universe itself had rewritten its rules, barring the path humanity and others had once walked. And so, the galaxy adapted. As the stars once again filled with the light of exploration, the ships that ventured into the void bore sails of fabric and hulls of wood and iron. The hum of engines was replaced by the groan of rigging and the snap of sails against the cosmic winds. Warfare, too, returned to its ancient roots. Swords clashed under alien suns, arrows streaked across the emptiness of space, and the strength of the arm became the deciding factor in battles. Empires rose and fell by the edge of a blade, their fate sealed not by fleets of war machines, but by the courage and skill of those who wielded the weapons of old. The galaxy marched forward, not in the cold precision of engines or the thunder of cannons, but in the harsh, visceral clash of iron and the ancient rhythms of combat. Humanity, if they still existed, remained hidden in the shadows of forgotten history. Their once unmatched dominion over the stars had faded into legend. And if they watched the new order unfold, they did so in silence. Perhaps they marveled at what had become of their legacy, or perhaps they mourned what had been lost. No one could say for certain if they were still there, lingering as ghosts in the ruins of their own making, or if they had truly vanished, leaving the galaxy to begin anew. The Kari Dominion had long been the galaxy's oppressors, their ambition unchecked and their cruelty legendary. They sought to conquer, enslave, and destroy all in their path, believing themselves the rightful rulers of the stars. Time and again, they launched invasions on countless worlds, spreading fear and devastation wherever they went. But no matter how powerful their forces or how brutal their methods, there was one constant: humanity. Whenever the Kari struck, It was humanity that always came to the aid of the weak, standing as a bulwark against their relentless expansion. The human fleets, though smaller than the vast Kari war machines, fought with an unmatched fervor, using their superior tactics and technology to push back the invaders. No matter how hard the Kari pressed, humanity's will to protect the innocent never faltered, and time and again, they thwarted the Dominion's plans, turning the tide of war in favor of those who could not defend themselves. The Kari hated them for it. Their conquests were repeatedly shattered by human interference, and each defeat fanned the flames of their resentment. No matter how vast their armies or how cunning their strategies, human technology and resolve crushed them like an iron hammer against brittle stone. But that era was gone. The plague of silence had wiped the galaxy clean, tearing down the empires of old and leaving only shadows of former glory. The great war machines and unassailable defenses of humanity were the first to fall, their mighty fleets reduced to lifeless debris adrift in the void. And as humanity faded into myth, the galaxy entered a new dark age. The Kari, hardened by loss but unbroken in spirit, thrived in the aftermath. For them, the end of the technological age was a rebirth. Without humanity's watchful eye to stifle their ambitions, they rebuilt faster than the other species, carving a path of steel and flame through the ruins of the old galaxy. With fleets forged of iron and armies of archers, swordsmen, and shield-bearers, the Kari reignited their conquests. One world fell, then another, and soon the Dominion stretched across the void once more, a testament to their resilience and determination. But conquest alone could not soothe the wounds of the past. The Kari carried their hatred of humanity like a flame that refused to be extinguished. To them, the humiliation they had suffered beneath the heel of human supremacy was a stain that could not be washed away by time or triumph. Even as their empire grew, the dream of vengeance burned brighter. They scoured the ruins of humanity's former worlds, combing through the wreckage of an age long gone. Though they found little, only broken relics and echoes of a people who had vanished, each fragment they unearthed deepened their obsession. The Kari longed to face their old adversaries once more, to see them humbled and broken, stripped of their mythical power. Whether humanity had perished or was hiding in the shadows, the Kari would not rest until they uncovered the truth and exacted their revenge. The galaxy, scarred and silent, watched as the Dominion's iron tide rose again, propelled not only by conquest, but by a seething hatred for the legends of the past. And then, by chance or fate, they found it. Scouts dispatched by the Kari Dominion to search the forgotten corners of the galaxy reported the discovery of an ancient world, lost to time, a green and blue planet orbiting a yellow star, Earth, the third world. The Dominion had encountered many worlds, but none like this. Its surface was dotted with ancient ruins, overgrown by lush forests, jagged mountains, and strange relics that hinted at a lost civilization. Curious, the Dominion scholars delved into the archives, uncovering records that sent shockwaves through their ranks. Earth, the planet of myth, the birthplace of humanity. It had been spoken of in hushed tones, a legend among the Kari, a place where the once mighty species of humanity had originated. To the Kari, humanity's legacy was a thorn in their side, a reminder of the humiliations they had suffered at the hands of a people they could never truly defeat. Now it was a prize to be claimed, a final act of vengeance in a galaxy that had long since forgotten the power humanity once wielded. The Kari Council wasted no time. This was their moment, an opportunity to utterly annihilate the descendants of those who had once ruled the galaxy and to erase humanity's legacy from existence. It was not enough to conquer. The Kari sought to make an example so devastating that no one in the galaxy would dare challenge their supremacy again. They assembled their largest fleet, a vast armada of ironclad ships, their crude fusion sails glowing like molten embers as they caught the light of distant stars. This was no ordinary invasion force. It was a harbinger of destruction. The Kari had one goal: to burn the third world to ash, leaving nothing but smoldering ruins and cinders in its place, ensuring that the name Earth would evoke only fear and submission in the ages to come. As the fleet descended upon the silent planet, it carried with it the Dominion's cruel purpose. The Kallari were not merely reclaiming dominance. They intended to send a chilling message to the galaxy, a warning that echoed louder than any battle cry. We are the rulers of the stars now. Reaching orbit, the Kallari transmitted a message across every frequency, their words a declaration of vengeance and a proclamation of power, meant for every corner of the forgotten world to hear. It began with the guttural snarl of Vakran, the Dominion's high warlord, a voice that carried the weight of years spent in frustration and hate. Humans, you once drowned the stars in fire and steel. You shattered our fleets, broke our armies, and burned our worlds without mercy. You defied us with your machines. You were gods, but now your machines are gone, and your technology rots beneath the soil. His words reverberated through the emptiness of space, each syllable thick with bitter triumph. His tone grew colder, more venomous, as he spoke of humanity's fall. The Kallari Dominion has returned, and we have not forgotten. There will be no mercy, no surrender. We will salt your fields, burn your cities, and destroy every last one of you. You will beg for the gods that abandoned you, but none will answer. The transmission ended, leaving only silence. The Kallari fleet loomed over Earth, ready to bring ruin to the planet once called home by humanity. But then, a voice broke through the void, calm and unwavering. Kallari, hear me. We do not seek war anymore. We left that behind, choosing peace over bloodshed. Let the past remain where it is. Bygones should be bygones. There was a brief pause before the voice continued, stronger now. You speak of vengeance, but what will it bring you? Destruction? We have nothing left to fight for but the peace we've fought to rebuild. Go home. Forget this thirst for revenge. Let us live in peace. The voice fell silent, leaving a single question hanging in the air. Would the Kallari listen? Vakran's voice echoed with cruel amusement as he responded to humanity's plea. So this is what you've become? Once you crushed us beneath your heel, drowned the stars in fire, and shattered our fleets like they were nothing. Now you beg for mercy, speak of peace? What happened to all that power? Where are your great weapons, your fleets, your technology? He sneered, the mockery thick in his voice. Without your machines, you're nothing. You're weak. You were heroes because of your technology. But now without it, you're just like any other species. Fragile, pathetic, and forgotten. You don't deserve peace. You deserve to remember the fire we've carried for centuries. The transmission ended, leaving only an oppressive silence in its wake. The Kallari fleet loomed above the planet, a shadow over the world that had once been the heart of humanity's empire. Below, Earth lay quiet, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon it. For the Kallari, this was the beginning of the end for their ancient enemy. For humanity, this was the moment of reckoning. The Kallari fleet descended upon Earth's skies like a storm of shadows, blotting out the sun with their ironclad warships as they hovered over the silent cities. Their warriors prepared for what they believed would be a swift and merciless conquest. On the plains outside what was once London, now transformed into a towering fortress of stone and iron, thousands of Kallari soldiers gathered. Clad in black steel and bristling with weapons, they moved with confidence, expecting to find a crumbling, defenseless world, long forgotten by time and ripe for annihilation. But they did not find a world awaiting slaughter. They found fire. From atop the fortress walls stood General Dorian Vex, a man whose presence radiated strength and command. Clad in dark plate that reflected the dim light of the sunless sky, his figure was a stark symbol of defiance. His face was sharp and unyielding, like chiseled stone, and his eyes burned with an intensity that seemed to pierce the Kallari forces below. At his back, a vast army stood ready. Soldiers lined the ramparts in disciplined ranks, their swords gleaming like lightning and their armor forged from the ruins of humanity's lost age, reforged to meet the challenges of this new world. Behind them loomed monstrous siege engines, towering constructs of wood and steel. These fearsome machines, designed to hurl massive stones or bolts the size of trees, stood as testaments to human ingenuity in a galaxy stripped of advanced technology. The soldiers manning them were resolute, their silence broken only by the faint hum of preparations for what was to come. The Kallari came expecting a graveyard. Instead, they found a fortress, one prepared to strike back. Dorian's voice thundered across the battlefield, his presence commanding the attention of every Kari soldier as he stepped forward, lifting his sword high for all to see. Kari, you come to this planet thinking humanity lies broken. You believe us weak, forgotten by history and abandoned by time. You are gravely mistaken. He paused, letting the wind carry his words as his soldiers slammed their weapons against their shields in a deafening rhythm. You have no idea what you've awoken. We were tired of war. We chose solitude, retreating to these ruins not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. We sought peace, not because we were incapable, but because we had endured more than any species could comprehend. We walked away from the stars because we conquered them. Dorian's gaze burned as it swept over the invading force like a predator sizing up its prey. We were born in war. Before we sailed the stars, we bled for every inch of this planet. Long before your kind even dreamed of conquest, our ancestors forged empires from fire and iron. War is not just our history, it is our inheritance. It is our blood. And now, Kari, it is your end. He pointed his sword toward the Kari fleet, his voice rising to a roar that echoed across the plains. You thought humanity was nothing more than a ghost, a fading memory, but today you will feel the weight of our truth. We are not forgotten. We are not broken. We are the storm that once ruled the stars. And today, you will fear us again. Behind him, the soldiers erupted into a thunderous war cry, their voices a chorus of defiance that seemed to shake the very earth. The battlefield echoed with the groaning creak of siege engines as the Kari unleashed their first assault. Trebuchets, reinforced with iron and powered by sheer brute force, hurled massive boulders at the human fortress. Each projectile soared through the air with terrifying momentum, slamming into the fortress walls and sending shockwaves rippling through the stone. Vakran stood at the forefront of his command platform, his eyes gleaming with cold satisfaction as cracks began to spread along the outer walls. Let them tremble, he growled to his officers. Their defenses are primitive. This fortress will crumble under our might. The Kari siege lines pushed forward relentlessly. Battering rams, crafted with steel-tipped heads and covered with iron plating, lumbered toward the gates. Siege towers, hauled by monstrous beasts, loomed ever closer, their platforms bristling with Kari warriors eager to scale the walls. Yet as the Kari closed in, the humans revealed their hand. From the ramparts of the fortress came the twang of hidden ballistae, their massive frames concealed beneath layers of stone and foliage. The weapons, remnants of humanity's forgotten ingenuity, fired with deadly precision. Their bolts were not just larger, they were engineered for specific purposes, showcasing the ingenuity of human warfare. The first bolt tore through the air with a sound like thunder, striking the lead battering ram. The steel-tipped projectile shattered the ram's head and sent its wooden frame splintering in all directions. Kari engineers scrambled to salvage the wreckage, but a second bolt followed, ripping through the protective canopy and cutting down the crew beneath it. Vakran's smirk faltered. Impossible, he muttered, his claws digging into the iron railing of his platform. As the siege towers advanced, the humans unleashed a new strategy. Ballista bolts tipped with alchemical fire struck the wooden structures, igniting them instantly. Towering infernos consumed the siege towers, their occupants leaping to their deaths or burning alive as the flames spread with ruthless efficiency. Vakran's confidence began to erode. They still fight like this? He snarled, turning to his lieutenants. These are supposed to be relics of a forgotten age. Commander, their weapons are meaningless, Vakran snapped, though his tone betrayed the cracks in his confidence. This is no empire. These are desperate hermits hiding behind ruins. But as the Kari trebuchets unleashed another volley, the humans demonstrated that desperation had nothing to do with their defense. The ballistae shifted targets. With calculated precision, their operators fired at the incoming boulders themselves. Massive bolts struck midair, shattering the projectiles into harmless fragments that rained down ineffectively on the battlefield. Trebuchets on the ground fell next, one by one, to the devastating accuracy of the human siege crews. Vakran's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible! His tail lashed in frustration. How are they doing this? Commander, another lieutenant began hesitantly, their tactics. It's as though they've been preparing for this. Vakrin glared at the fortress. For centuries, the Kalari had believed the humans diminished, their once glorious empire reduced to nothing more than ash and memory. Earth was meant to be a forgotten relic, a planet of farmers and scavengers, barely clinging to survival. Yet here they were, defenders wielding weapons of terrifying ingenuity, outmatching the Kalari at every turn. As the hours stretched into the night, Vakrin's frustration boiled over. He paced the command deck, his fury growing with each report of another siege engine destroyed. "This is impossible," he roared, slamming a clawed fist against the railing. "They are nothing now. They've fallen. Their empire is dust. How do they fight like this?" His officers exchanged uneasy glances. Vakrin's pride, so carefully constructed, was beginning to crack. "This is not strength," Vakrin snarled, as much to himself as to his subordinates. "This is stubbornness. It cannot last. It will not last." But deep in his mind, a whisper of doubt began to form. The stories of humanity's past, their mastery of war, their ability to adapt and endure, lingered like a shadow he couldn't ignore. "Ready the next wave," he barked, refusing to let the doubt take root. "We will grind them down." Yet as he turned his gaze back to the battlefield, watching his siege lines falter under the unrelenting precision of the human defenders, a chilling realization began to creep into his thoughts. This was no relic of a bygone age. This was humanity proving, once again, why they had once ruled the stars. As the Kalari siege engines lay in ruins, and the smoke of their failed assaults darkened the skies, Vakrin gave the order for his legions to march. This time, there would be no siege weapons or distant bombardments, just the raw strength of the Dominion's warriors. The Kalari legions advanced in tight phalanxes, their shields raised and spears bristling like the quills of a monstrous beast. Their war cries echoed across the battlefield, meant to rattle the hearts of their enemies. Vakrin marched at their head, his crimson cloak billowing as he raised his massive blade. "Humans," he bellowed over comms, "your walls will not save you. Your tricks will not hold. Face us now and be broken." The gates of the human fortress creaked open, and Vakrin's smirk returned. This was the moment of triumph, face to face, no tricks, no clever machinery. Victory was inevitable, but what emerged silenced the Kalari cheers. From the fortress, ranks of human soldiers marched out in perfect formation. Phalanxes of shield-bearers advanced first, their polished plates gleaming in the light, each shield adorned with the sigils of long-lost human houses. Their movements were flawless, shields locking together with mechanical precision. Behind them, halberdiers stood ready, their pole arms crafted with an elegance the Kalari could scarcely comprehend. The humans moved as one, an unstoppable tide of steel and discipline. Their banners fluttered in the wind, emblazoned with symbols Vakrin had only seen in ancient scrolls: the wolf, the eagle, the lion. The two armies collided with a deafening crash. The Kalari phalanxes, though vast in number, faltered against the human shield walls. Every thrust of a Kalari spear met an impenetrable defense. The humans absorbed the blows, their shields bracing against the impact with unyielding strength. Then, with brutal efficiency, the counterattack came. The front rank of humans surged forward, their shields smashing into Kalari warriors with bone-crushing force. Halberds and spears struck with deadly accuracy, piercing the gaps in Kalari armor. The precision was terrifying. The humans didn't waste a single motion. Every strike was deliberate, every formation unbreakable. Vakrin, watching from the rear, growled in frustration. "They fight like machines. They're nothing but relics with rusted steel. How are they holding us?" A lieutenant beside him stammered. They're fighting as one, High Warlord. It's like they've done this 1,000 times before." Vakrin's claws tightened on his sword. He had heard the ancient tales of human warriors, how their armies once swept across the cosmos like a tidal wave, unstoppable and ruthless in their mastery of war. He had dismissed those tales as exaggerations, mere boasts from a long-dead empire. But now, watching his warriors struggle against these humans, he began to understand it wasn't just their machines that had made them gods. It was their unparalleled mastery of battle, their unyielding will to fight and conquer, that had once shaped the very fabric of the universe. As the Kari line buckled, Vakran sent in reinforcements, hoping to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. Waves of Kari warriors charged, axes raised and swords gleaming. But the humans adapted instantly. The shield walls parted, and knights on foot surged forward, their swords carving through Kari ranks with unparalleled skill. Each strike was measured and precise, each defense calculated to perfection. The humans fought like they had seen every tactic before, like they had mastered war not just in practice but in philosophy. Behind the knights, archers emerged, but they didn't fire blindly. They targeted commanders, standard-bearers, in key formations, unraveling the Kari structure piece by piece. For every human that fell, 10 Kari were sent to the ground. The humans moved like a storm, their mastery of close combat unmatched. Their shields held firm, their blades cut through Kari armor with ease, and their warriors fought as if the art of war was written in their very blood. The Kari, once confident in their numbers, began to falter as their ranks thinned, the terror of facing these ancient masters of battle sinking in. Panic spread through the Kari lines as they realized they were up against more than just humans. They were facing the gods of war. Vakran's frustration boiled into fury. He leapt onto the battlefield, roaring, "Push them back! They are nothing. They are weak. This is their final stand. Break them!" But even as he joined the fray, the truth became undeniable. The Kari legions faltered as their lines crumbled, their once mighty formations undone by human discipline and ingenuity. For every warrior that fell, it seemed as though two humans rose to take their place, unrelenting and unyielding. Amid the chaos, Vakran's crimson cloak whipped in the wind as he stormed toward the front, his fury boiling over. He was the high warlord of the Kari dominion, the unbroken fist of vengeance, and yet his army was breaking before his eyes. His claws clenched around his massive blade, a jagged monstrosity forged to intimidate and annihilate. And then he saw him. At the heart of the human lines, like a black sun surrounded by an unyielding sea, stood General Dorian Vex. His armor gleamed with the grime of battle, and his sword, massive yet elegant, seemed to hum with an almost mythical weight. This was the man, the one whose presence seemed to embody the indomitable spirit of humanity itself. The two leaders locked eyes. With a guttural roar, Vakran charged, barreling through the chaos and debris as he barreled toward his target. Dorian turned, calm as the eye of a storm, and strode forward to meet him. This was no ordinary fight. It was a clash that would echo through the ages. As the ground trembled beneath their feet, and the sky darkened with the fury of their armies, the two warriors collided in a storm of steel and sparks. Vakran's blade came down with the force of a thunderbolt, but Dorian sidestepped with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. Each strike from Vakran was met with an equal and opposite reaction. Dorian's sword became a blur of light and death, parrying and countering with such devastating speed that it was as if time itself bowed to him. Every movement was a masterstroke, every dodge a defiance of death, turning the battlefield into the stage of the greatest fight ever witnessed. Vakran growled, his confidence fraying with each exchange. "You're nothing but remnants of a broken empire. Your time is over," he snarled, slamming his blade down in a desperate arc. Dorian met the strike head-on, sparks flying as their swords clashed. His voice, calm and edged with disdain, cut through the chaos. "Yet here you stand, desperate to destroy what you claim is already broken. Perhaps it's you who needs to be reminded why humanity ruled the stars." The battlefield seemed to pause as the duel raged on, soldiers from both sides stopping to watch the titanic clash. Vakran's fury grew with every failed attempt to break through Dorian's defenses. Each swing of his blade was met with not just resistance, but devastating precision. Dorian pressed the attack, his strikes methodical, his footwork flawless. It was as if he could see Vakran's every move before it happened. He wove through the Kari warlord's wild blows with a grace that bordered on effortless. Vakran's frustration turned to disbelief. This wasn't just a soldier he was fighting. It was a living embodiment of war itself, a warrior whose very soul had been forged in the crucible of war. The old legends whispered of humans as gods of war, and now for the first time, Vakrin understood why. "You are nothing without your machines," Vakrin roared, swinging his blade in a furious arc. "You had your ships, your weapons of the stars. Without them, you're weak." Dorian deflected the blow with a sweep of his blade, spinning to deliver a counterstrike that left a shallow cut across Vakrin's armor. His voice was low, almost a whisper, yet it carried across the field like thunder. "We were never gods because of machines or power. We were gods because we were born in the crucible of war, forged by every blade, every battle, and every sacrifice. We learned the art of destruction, and now you will learn why humanity's mastery of war was never about technology. It was about us." Vakrin staggered back, panting, the weight of Dorian's words sinking in. Around him, the Kari forces were in full retreat, their formations shattered and their morale broken. The humans had proven unyielding, their strategies flawless, their mastery of medieval combat unmatched. For the first time, Vakrin felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Terror. This was no ordinary enemy. This was humanity, the true masters of war, unbroken and eternal. Dorian's sword hovered inches from Vakrin's throat, the weight of 1,000 battles in the chilling gleam of his eyes. The air crackled with the tension of the moment, the battlefield frozen in a moment of absolute terror. Vakrin, broken and panting, could only look up at the man who represented the human myth. A myth that had once been whispered across the stars, thought lost to time, but now stood before him in flesh and blood. "Run!" Dorian growled, his voice colder than the steel in his hand. "Run back to your worlds. Tell them what happened here. Tell them Earth still stands, and humanity does not forgive or forget." Vakrin's legs wobbled as if the ground beneath him had turned to ash. His eyes, wide with the realization of his failure, locked onto Dorian's, an echo of disbelief ringing through his every nerve. "You came to conquer the forgotten, but the forgotten do not kneel." With a flick of his wrist, Dorian sheathed his blade, leaving Vakrin to tremble in his wake. As the Kari retreated, Dorian's words cut through the silence like a thunderclap. "Go! And remember, the stars are still ours." Vakrin and the few Kari survivors staggered to their ships, their dreams of conquest shattered, their spirits broken. The battlefield was a graveyard of ambition, where the weight of humanity's might had crushed them utterly. Word spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Humanity had returned. The few Kari survivors fled to their ships, their dreams of conquest reduced to ashes. The defeat was not just a loss of men and territory, it was a loss of pride, a crushing blow to their identity. Word spread quickly across the galaxy. Humanity had returned. In the weeks that followed, the Kari Dominion, once so proud and unyielding, withdrew from the worlds they had conquered, not out of strategy, but out of shame and a deep, gnawing fear. Their leaders, humiliated and broken, sent emissaries, not to declare war, but to beg for peace. The mere thought of facing humanity again was enough to chill their bones. For they knew now that the humans were not mere relics of a forgotten age. They were warriors, born of battle, and they had never truly fallen. The galaxy trembled as the stories of Earth's fury spread like wildfire. The once defiant empires that had turned a blind eye to humanity's absence now remembered why they had feared them in the first place. Word of the humans' indomitable will and mastery over war rippled through every corner of the galaxy. The Kari Dominion, now a shadow of its former self, was not the only one to feel the weight of Earth's wrath. Across the stars, empires that had once dared to defy humanity now knelt in silence, afraid to awaken the wrath of a force they could no longer hope to defeat. The galaxy remembered. And so, beneath the quiet gaze of the cosmos, humanity once again took its rightful place among the stars. Not through machines, not through ancient technologies, but through the timeless strength of steel, fire, and the unbreakable will that had shaped them since the dawn of time.